Paula Reed has this incredible new reporting tonight about Team Trump's strategy heading into what they say will be the most important day of Trump's criminal trial. So in just hours, Michael Cohen's going to return to the stand. And CNN is learning that Trump's lead attorney, Todd Blanche, right, who's doing the cross, plans to zero in on just how cheap Trump is, using that cheapness to say that Trump would never have agreed to, quote, gross up the Stormy Daniels hush money payment to Michael Cohen. And this is what goes right to the heart of the entire criminal case, which is the alleged fraud of business documents. Remember, not illegal to pay the hush money payment. It is how and when the payment happened that matters. Trump's basically going to say he was way too cheap to gross up that $130,000 payment. Now, this would be a very clear shift from what we saw on Tuesday. Blanche and Cohen went back and forth, talking about Cohen's profanity-laden posts about Trump, how much money Cohen made from his books and podcasts and anti-Trump coffee mugs and T-shirts. And the cross Tuesday was confusing for any of us who were in the room. Harry Litman, a former Deputy Assistant Attorney General, said, and I quote Harry, "My basic assessment, cross is not crisp, clean, or quick enough." The managing editor of Lawfare said most of it boring and seemingly aimless. And even this piece from Fox News, cross-examination throws Michael Cohen off balance, but belabors point that he hates Trump. Belabors and boring, not glowing reviews, and it may be not Trump lawyer's fault, not Blanche's fault. I mean, Trump, of course, is the client, and in this case, not a client who takes direction, a client who gives direction, a client who calls the shots. His legal team has managed to stay on Trump's good side by doing what Trump wants them to do. Tap, tap on the shoulder, hand the note, and an immediate reaction from Blanche or Beauvais or Necklace. So will that change tomorrow? Remember that Blanche here is a well-regarded former federal prosecutor. He has a very good reputation. He's taken on people accused of murder, and he does know what he's doing in a courtroom. And as we are closing in on this crucial day of testimony, questions are now growing as to whether Trump himself will actually testify. Of course, he has said he would. His lawyers haven't fully shut down the idea that Trump will do this, and that is going to be the crucial question. So much at stake with how this cross goes tomorrow. And Paula Reed is out front to begin our coverage live in New York tonight. And Paula, it is your incredible new reporting here at the center of what Trump's team is planning tomorrow. Tell us everything you're learning.
Well, as you just said, this is the game. The cross-examination of Michael Cohen tomorrow will likely decide this case. And I've learned that they are going to now start focusing on what he said during his direct examination and his previous statements about this case. They're going to zero in on some new things that he revealed while he was on the stand and also look at some statements that they believe have been inconsistent, in addition to trying to challenge his memory of conversations he had with then-candidate Trump back in 2016. They're also going to challenge this idea that Cohen wasn't doing any legal services for Trump, or that this grossed up money was not meant to be payment for legal services. They'll point to the fact that Michael Cohen has never had a retainer in the entire time that he worked for Trump. So that should not be something that is of significance now. The goal here, Aaron, is not to destroy Michael Cohen on the stand. The goal of the rest of this cross-examination is to sow doubt in the minds of at least one juror that they should make such a significant decision based on the testimony of this man. Now, this cross-examination of Michael Cohen could go until Monday, and then it's unclear if the defense is going to call any witnesses, but they may call just one expert witness to the stand, which means the jury could have this case by Thursday.
Wow. All right, Paula, thank you very much. And our experts are all with me. So Paul Martin, hours away from Michael Cohen, coming back onto the stand. And interesting, they're going to go right to the heart of it to basically say the fraud here is not something Trump would have done, because he wouldn't have grossed it up.
Well, it's about time, because enough of beating him up that he lied. The issue is not whether he lied to Congress. It's not whether he lied to another court. The issue is he lying to this jury? And I think Blanche is going to have to really cross-examine him and bring out the fact that what he said in his previous testimony is untrue, and then force him to admit that he's a liar to them.
To them in this specific case.
That's correct.
Now, Sarah, you know Todd Blanche well. You know, and I was sitting in the room the other day. I mean, he started out and he was livid, right? Calling out a post that Michael Cohen had posted with profanities about Todd Blanche. That got stricken from the record. And then there was this, you know, for such a strong start, then there were moments it was boring, I'll be honest, sitting in the room. You know Todd Blanche worked for him for many years. Do you think he felt that and he's going to bring it tomorrow?
I think that was an unusual place for Todd to start. And it didn't go well for him. It was objected to. The judge sort of slapped him down and he had to pivot. He started, and then he went into sort of a lot of questions about motive here. What is Michael Cohen's motive to testify?
And that he wanted to make money or he hated Trump.
That's right. And I think he made those points and really needed to move on. I mean, cross-examination doesn't always produce those aha moments, those TV moments. Some of it is just plotting and boring, and it's a way to, poke little holes, little paper cuts in the witness's story that ultimately the defense is going to stand up at the end of the day and say, all of these little things show that Michael Cohen is incredible.
So Daniel, as a former Manhattan assistant district attorney, having been in these rooms before, what is at stake for Blanche tomorrow?
So I think what's at stake for him is he is really, as Paul said, he's really got to cut to the chase. He cannot waste time. I know that there's been some reporting that the cross-examination may go until Monday. He really needs to bring it home and get to the point. And if the defense is, as Paul has suggested, Trump is too cheap, he's got to be very careful that the prosecution has spent weeks building evidence to show how engaged Donald Trump is in the minutia of the finance of his organization. And that's a very, very fine line for him to walk.
Stephanie, what do you think of the Trump is too cheap to actually have agreed to gross up that money defense?
So when I was listening to you, I was actually smiling, Aaron, because it's true. He's known for not paying people and that he can be quite cheap. But I think to me, that just shows how much he wanted to cover this up and how important it was that the story not get out there before the election day. So it makes no sense to me. That seems kind of random. I feel like it'll backfire.
Yeah, and it is, it's new, in terms of what, Paul, we're hearing. But I guess the question is, if it doesn't go well tomorrow, or as well as they think it needs to go, then you got the question of Trump himself.
Yes, and that's an interesting question, because I wouldn't put him on the stand if my last dollar or 130,000 of it depended upon it. But listen, this man controls his attorneys, and he doesn't listen to his attorneys. His attorneys want him to stay away from that witness stand. The prosecution wants him to take the stand.
As you were saying, he will have to deal with questions literally along the lines of, what color were your
boxers
satin,
that day?
Huh? Okay, I was going to go with pajamas, but you're right, boxer, yes.
So he's going to have to answer those questions. And those are questions that he's uncomfortable with. And he's also in a position where he's not going to be able to pivot and walk away. The prosecutions are going to keep him on that witness stand and are going to get the answers that they want to hear. He's not going to have the answers that he needs to answer to get him acquitted.
I'm just curious, Sarah, when you look at this, do you understand why Todd Blanche is in this position to begin with? We've talked about it. Obviously he has a great reputation many years. I know you think very highly of him. He's chosen to go out on his own, have one client, work out of 40 Wall Street, buy a home near Mar-a-Lago. Does any of that surprise you?
It's a decision that I think other defense attorneys wouldn't have made. Trump has a long history of falling out with his lawyers, a long history of not paying his lawyers. This was, I'm sure Todd weighed a lot of factors before making this decision. He gave up what was a prestigious job and partnership at a prestigious firm to do this. So, he had his reasons. I don't know what they were, but definitely some others would have made a different decision.
Right. All the eggs in one basket, as they may say. Daniel, so obviously Trump, we've got that question of whether he will go on the stand. Then there were a couple of witnesses that the defense was talking about, maybe an expert witness. Do you think it's worth it for them to put anyone on the stand?
I just don't know how an expert jives with this defense, right? They have tried to impeach desperately the credibility of the two key witnesses, right? Stormy Daniels, or actually three, Keith Davidson, and now Michael Cohen. So what is an expert going to add to this? They've essentially said these witnesses made this up for all of their various reasons. So what is an expert going to add to this? I'm not really sure I understand what the strategy would be for that.
So, Stephanie, Trump keeps saying he wants to testify. Then he said, oh, well, my lawyers tell me not to, right? He's opening, giving the cracking the door open to not actually doing it. Do you think he really wants to?
I think his ego, of course, wants to. He wants to go in there and fight. He doesn't like, again, that he's been sitting at a table and he hasn't been able to say anything. He talks about this gag order all the time. but I don't think there's a chance he'll do it. And he will continue to blame. He'll blame his lawyers. He'll blame the judge. He'll say it's because of the gag order, which we know is not true. So he knows the stakes, and so he won't do it. But I'm sure there's a part of him that's itching to.
All right, so Paul, can I just, from where we are right now, how far is the process, where are we on reasonable doubt, right? You need one juror to have a reasonable doubt. That's all you need. Where are we right now on that? Have they proved it beyond a reasonable doubt with what we have seen thus far with texts or, text to Alan Weisselberg with gross up on the sheet of paper?
Well, you've been in the courtroom. I think they made out a prima facie case, but who knows what's going on in the minds of these jurors? Someone may not have liked the way Stormy Daniels turned one way, or they didn't like the way Cohen made an answer to this question or that answer. The real issue is going to be, I think, in this case, the summations. And if Trump doesn't take the stand. If Trump doesn't take the stand, this is going to be in a summations case that will win or lose.
In the closing statements.
Correct.